Hello, hello, hello. This is going to be a quick, hopefully a quick little transmission and share. Hopefully you can hear me with all the fans going. I hope it's loud for me and not you. Okay, interesting messages coming through. I'm not going to keep harping on what's going on in the energy because I think you guys can feel it, and I want that to be an individual journey and experience for each of you to have your very specific grounding of union, or perhaps an inner union of self. Whatever's happening for you, I want that to be special and not influenced too much by outside perspective. Which brings me to my next to my actual reason I'm coming on right now. So for many of you, this is so interesting. Many of you, this twin flame union, or excuse me, separation, activation, initiation, was to show you karmic energy so that you could understand, like, you needed that. It's almost like the pain of the separation wasn't so that you would have pain. It was to give you, even if it was brief and fleeting. I know some of you like barely shared a day with your twin, or, you never had the physical intimacy with twin, but you just had this like brief moment of true, pure, energetic love where you felt, it was to give you a guidepost, a balance post of what love feels like, because most of you had never experienced it in any relationship. I'm talking family, I'm talking past lovers. Maybe you had tiny glimpses. Especially if you look at like past relationships. I know some of you have like, oh, I can see my twin in that person, or I can see, yes, but it wasn't the same. And so it was never about, the divine was never bringing you into union with this person right then and there. It was bringing you into this deep acknowledgement and awareness and understanding of what true reciprocity, true love is, right? And again, we're speaking mostly energetic because obviously there were complications in the 3D due to that karmic buildup that perhaps had one or both of you acting very karmically and toxic towards one another. So what I'm getting is, so many of you then went through this process, and some of you could have been really slow to this, is what the divine says. Like it took you a long time to figure out it's not about this person, right? All your focus was on this person, the loss of them, the what did I do wrong? And within that, focus on you. But for some of you, then what happened is your journey started taking this other turn, like, a turn you did not expect, where maybe you started attracting new people into your life. I know a lot of you attracted really deep, at sometimes trauma bonding, at sometimes karmic, toxic relationships almost immediately post separation, whether that was a love connection, right? And I'm talking both, just so you know, I'm addressing both masculine and feminine here. This is the whole collective. Or maybe it was a friendship where you were both mutually bonding over the pain of this journey, right? But then you kind of did this weird like replace of twin within this person. And then some of you, you from feeling that loss and insecurity and all of that, then you were pushed back towards maybe very unhealthy family dynamics and people in your life that you share energy, you share space with, you share all this with. And really, so the whole point was to show you what karmic energy is. It can tell you it's love, right? The world can tell you it's love. They can shout it until it's blue in the face, but you now know the difference. And it probably took a long time to disentangle yourself from the gaslighting of, no, this is love. This is my family. Of course they love me, right? But you had felt what real love was with this person, even though you couldn't even make sense of that in the real world, right? You couldn't even make sense of it. But there's a slow deconditioning process. And so there's probably been a lot of fluctuation of the people coming in and out of your life, right? And, there's probably been a lot of levels, I guess that's the best way this is the word that's coming through to describe it, like iterations, right? So maybe like, you had to learn the really hard journey first, or maybe some of those first initial relationships, like I said, were trauma bonding, were karmic in nature, were very, very deceptive, were really dark. And so you became very, very wise to that, right? You became very, very wise. Maybe you had certain people in your life that, based on the external, right, the judgments of the external world, you thought this person's going to have to go. Now that I'm on a spiritual awakening and now that I'm really evolving, this person, they do this. Maybe you had just like a list in your head, a weird sort of analytical, very human, judgmental list of this person's not a match for me anymore because. And then time and time again, spirit showed you, but how do you feel when you're with this person? How does this person make you feel? Does this person add to your life? Does this person give something very unique and beautiful to you that is irreplaceable, that you haven't found in anyone else? Then maybe you should let go of those judgments because they mean nothing, right? Maybe it is this deep connection that you actually feel inside. I certainly had that where there were certain people, there's so many people I had to let go of, right? And I literally let go of almost everyone in my life except one person that I kept questioning, like, do I need to let go of this person? Do I need to let go of this person? And time again, they would show me, trust what you feel, trust what you feel. You don't need to go through this like spiritual, divine, judgmental checklist in your head of like, does this person do this? Does this person do this? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, how do you feel when you're with this person, right? So maybe you had an experience like that. And then maybe each time you let go of somebody or somebody just left your life, either through their own, because the energy is always aligning. So even if you're not the one that vocally says, hey, I want you to leave my life, we're all working in energy. So you can feel, when somebody just leaves, or when you can feel that energy, when you can just feel it's a mismatch and it's off. So this whole time you were learning what karmic energy was. And, for the masculines, I think they go through this similar process with friendship, with romantic interest, with whatnot, because the feminine energy is so confusing to them at first that it's like, it doesn't quite make sense to them. So there's this, it's really a confusing, how do we place them? How do I place this energy that was different than any other energy? And feminines, you go through this as well. I just see for some reason, feminines seem to attract this lesson through friendship more. Right. So oftentimes they'll be connecting with other feminines. Sometimes they'll go through this with masculine, but it's 11-11. I think that the reason that feminines, there's just a unique quality to feminine energy, that feminine energy can be very mutable and a lot like water. So feminine energy can take the shape of a masculine if it's interacting with a highly feminine. So they can kind of interact together and kind of shift and change and morph and be what the other needs. Masculine energy is a little bit more rigid. So two masculine energies have a harder time being a chameleon for the other to take on that shape. Yes, of course, there are, what am I trying to say? That's not a hard and fast rule. There's always going to be unique differences to that can happen for sure. I'm not discounting that, but it tends to be that the masculines do a lot of their learning through with other feminines. Let's just say with other feminines. So it could be friendships. It could absolutely be friendships. It could be, family, but it's really trying to understand what is love and what is not, what is karmic and what is toxic, what is, really gauging this. And again, when we come into an inner union state, we come into this place of, it's not about judgment. It's not about labeling, you're bad, you're toxic, you don't give, or, you're out to get me, you're here to hurt me. It's more just, okay, it's the balance of scales. It's justice. It's the balance. The universe loves balance. The universe will always be driving you towards balance. So if something is out of balance and you're ignoring the signs, a tower moment is approaching, right? A tower moment of, okay, quick, fast change. This has got to change because there's no reciprocity. Okay. And sometimes it's very, very hard for us to be honest with ourselves about reciprocity, because maybe there's an ego desire that this person gives us, right? These journeys can be extremely lonely, extremely, extremely lonely. And if you find somebody on the journey that understands it because they're on it to an extent, or they think they're on it or whatever, and you can bond over similar language, you can bond over similar ideas, etc. Oftentimes we can overlook a lot of other things just to get that need met. But ironically, for so many of us, the journey is about coming into solitude, going into the hermit, becoming very, very discerning, becoming very, very true in our own energy, our own influence. And for a lot of us, I think this journey is hard because it's really, really karmic family dynamics. And so in a lot of ways in our world, it can be a lot harder to escape or detach from dark family dynamics. Okay. So I fully empathize and have compassion for that. I know I've shared before, I went through a huge purging and purifying process with my family. And there was a time where I didn't know if I'd ever speak to them again. And it wasn't like punishment or much analytical forethought into planning ahead. It was literally just like, I know that this isn't right. I know this isn't balanced. I know this doesn't feel good. I have to do what I'm being guided to do. And that's how my guides guided me. And it was like so quick that was able to transform because I followed the messages and the guidance. Now, I know that's not as easy for everybody. Okay. I know that can be really, really challenging depending on how enmeshed you are. And again, this could be a best friend you've had since you were a child. This could be, your partner, maybe you have children with this person, whatever this karmic energy is, spirit is so for your specific mission, you need to be really wise at karmic energy, because karmic energy, once you're really on that mission and it's safe and you're public and you're out in the open, the divine's like, I need you to recognize karmic energy and I need you to go, no fucks given. I'm cutting this person out of my life and I'm not going to feel bad about it. You know what I mean? And to not go in on yourself and self-shame and spiral and all of that, right? You have to be so clear. And it's not, and the beautiful thing is when you really come into that inner union state, you recognize that if this person has any chance at all to come into a redemption story, and heal their codependency, be able to give what they take, etc. You name it. The true act of love is actually letting them go. When you hold them back, you know that you're just enabling and creating a toxic karmic sort of cord attachment that's not healthy for either of you, and it brings you both down. And that's quite honestly where the world has gotten relationships so wrong for so long, is we think we're doing the kind, nice thing, but really it's easier for our ego because we don't have to face any hardship. And real love, it's really interesting because I notice how my energy interacts with people out in the world, and telling someone no feels like radical love. It's interesting. And I'm not to say that person doesn't have an ego expression and that person doesn't get mad sometimes or want to have that temper tantrum, that childlike temper tantrum when you tell them no, but they also feel so loved sometimes. Like I don't want to say sometimes, they within that, they feel there's a truth within it that's like, wow, no one in my life has cared enough to say no. No one in my life has cared enough to tell me I was being a dick. Do you know what I mean? And so I often become a very safe punching bag for people, to be honest. And it's not a role I wanted to take on in any way. No way did I think I was consciously signing up for that. No. But I go where I'm needed. I go where God tells me to go, right? So I always let the energy flow. But it's interesting because when people finally feel safe because they can read that truthfulness, they can read that Empress or that Emperor divine energy within you. Divine energy is truth. Divine energy is no BS, right? It is true. And it pierces through illusion. It pierces through deception. And so oftentimes you're the safe dumping ground, right? That person can have that breakdown, that person can just unleash, right? And now you, of course, can be that, because if you're in a situation like that, then the divine has brought you there and there's something happening that you just trust. But then you also can take a step back after that and say, okay, this contract is done, null and void, right? You can decide, am I willing to, is this person aware enough to actually make changes, or is this just going to become the pattern now because I'm the safe space, right? So anyways, let me just get back to the message really quick. So if you felt like lonelier than you've ever felt on these journeys, if you felt like maybe you started the journey and at certain times in the journey, you felt like you had a lot of community around you and people that you really understood and you just felt that soul thing, but then they've been kind of taken away, or you've realized who they really were and you felt so like, oh my God, and you're shook and you're just like so upset and whatnot. Just know your guy, like they just want you to know this has been a process of discernment. This has been a process of learning what the karmic energy is. The twin was the activator to show you what true love is. And now that you're having this, it's your barometer. Is that the right term? I don't know. It's your gauge. You just go back to it and you're like, okay, I know what that felt like. Does this feel like that? No. Okay, next. Right. And I know it's why a lot of you find that, when entering into dating or romantic relationships, you're like, okay, well, nothing freaking compares. And yeah, that is true. And for those of you that are meant to be in a grounded physical union with your twin, that is why, because you're protected from ever getting involved with someone else in a way. It's not like you always have free will choice. So you can always go off script if you want. But for some of you, the twin is just simply meant to be an activator. And then that energy that you felt within that person is going to be transferred into a new person when the timing is right, when you have called it in, when they've called it in, when you've learned your lesson of karmic, toxic energy, when you've learned discernment, appropriate for your mission. Okay. Because we all have unique missions, right? and the type of work I do, if you have a similar sort of thing where you are here to help people like one-on-one or help people in a public, very visible way, people really like to infiltrate that. I'm just going to say, like, if you're meant to be public and you're meant to be visible in any way, this is probably going to be one of your biggest lessons that you have to get really good at. You have to get really good at sniffing it out and walking away with love, you know, calling it out, seeing it, and just being really clear. Like, when you are a support system in the world, you need a powerful support system for you, right? They always say coaches, guides, healers, therapists. Who's your therapist? Who's your coach? Who's your guide? Because if you're out there giving, who's supporting you? It's critical, right? And for some of you, you may have felt like a big absence of that for a long time, but the divine is saying that that is changing. And part of the reason, the other thing too that seems to be happening is some of you, you had to clear out your space so it was very, very clean. And that's how the grounding of a union could occur, to make it safe, okay, for both people. Because the other energies, even if they're well-meaning, and they could even be energies that could come back around later in your future, but they just weren't correct for you right now because of the timeline that you're on, the alignment you're on. I mean, quite honestly, when you are in true Emperor and Empress energy, you are so triggering to people. You are so triggering. I think I just delusioned myself for a while and thinking that, like, when I really am in a state of inner union and I'm in Empress energy, that I'm just like, everyone loves me. And while a piece of that is true, I'm not going to lie, there is a piece of that. What it is you're very magnetizing. So people are going to stop and look, right? But depending on where they are in their own system, they may have this desire to squash that. Okay. And some of them are very sneaky and manipulative. So they want to play the game. So they want to get in and like befriend you and, like, you know, what is it called? Gas you up, like do all this stuff to kind of really get you to trust them. And then they want to slowly kind of break you down. Once you get to a certain place of learning these lessons and the discernment and sovereignty, like it can't happen, which is why these journeys are so critical. Like, it just can't happen. You get to a point where you can spot it the moment it begins, and it just doesn't happen. But you know, you earn that through the experiential learning and embodiment of, okay, what does this feel like? Okay, what does this feel like? Okay. And you know, then there's people that, you know, as well-meaning as they may be, they start to siphon and drain your energy because it's very magnetizing, it's very addicting, and they don't really have a lot to offer in return. But when you're super empathetic and compassionate, you don't really, it's hard, I think, before we've really learned these lessons, to be able to go, okay, but what am I getting in this? Right? Because we just want to be like, love it. We're just service role people. We're here to serve. We want to be. And so that's part of the lesson too, is people who start to copy, mimic, siphon a divine's energy in order to avoid their own true embodiment, true awakening, true ascension. Okay. And I think that's something, especially if you have a mission to be in the public eye in any way, or to be in a service role, then that's definitely going to be a lesson that you're going to go through and learn and experience. And I speak from experience on all of these, to be honest with you, right? But yeah, that was the message I was getting. It was really beautiful because I was getting the world. So I was getting a deep completion of this cycle and this energy, where if you hear like a lot of feminines talking about, they're so grateful that they've manifested soul family and things like that. I've been hearing that a little bit. And I think that that's lovely. And we can't compare our journey, and we can't judge and think like, well, I must have done something wrong if that hasn't happened. So I think this message, the reason I wanted to make this public and I wanted to share it with as many of you as I could, is I want you to know that if that has not happened for you, don't despair. Don't think that you've been doing something wrong on this journey. In fact, Spirit is actually saying it's a great indication that if you are in separation from a counterpart, it's a great indication of a grounding of a union, quite honestly, because that time is meant to be sacred. It's meant to be for just the two of you. And if you have distractions and other energies and other people needing from you, draining you, it's just harder. And the vibration has to remain really high and pure. And other people, as wonderful and well-meaning as they can be, they don't always align to that. And so there's times on the journey where there's a great reciprocity and give and take. And oftentimes it's really so that you can learn these lessons, and then they separate because you've learned the lesson. And now there's really nothing else that person can give you, and, or nothing else you can give them, because now they need to go work on their embodiment, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, that was just such a weird perspective that they gave me, that I was just so interested in sharing it, that, these journeys are about learning and understanding karmic energy, and there's no part of the divine that is punishing you in to be away from this, you know, profound, beautiful love. It's so that you have all of this wisdom and knowledge and tools to move forward in the world freely, and to not be in any sort of fear, and to not trust yourself, to be able to fully trust yourself, to be able to, like, you know what I mean, engage in the way, in the beautiful effervescent sort of energy that you carry as a divine. I mean, that's what we're here to do. We're here to spread that love. We're here to be love and be an example of that love. So of course it's going to attract a lot, but guess what? If you're protected, if you understand energetics, if you understand what true love feels like, what karmic energy feels like, what enabling, what codependent, if you understand what all these energies feel like, you're golden. And you never have to be like cruel, right? Obviously you're going to take your guidance and feel your guidance when you feel it. It's odd, but there's been some people that very unexpectedly I've been guided to be very cold with, and spirit has shown me later why. And so I always trust it. Some people really need that. When you need to set a boundary that you are like 100% clear, like, nope, 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 it ain't gonna happen. Because not everyone is working with a pure heart, unfortunately, but that's what we're here to kind of uplift. So, by the way, my name is Megan Madson. I am a divine channel and guide, and you can find all the information about me in the bottom of the description box. You can book sessions. You can come over to our Patreon community, where I typically post. I know I haven't posted on here in a very, very, very long time, but I'm active over there, posting multiple times a week. We do live events, we do meditations, we do energy check-ins, channeling, etc. You name it, classes, etc. It's all over there if you're interested. But thank you so much for being here. If you see this video, that's great, because the algorithm, you know. So please like, that helps a lot. It helps a lot to make sure that other people get to see the content. Subscribing helps immensely as well. And I always post on here when I'm guided and when it feels like it's really a collective message. And who knows, there could be a lot more frequency and regular posting in the future. So sending you guys a lot of love. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this message reaches those it needs to reach.